It's CX Day, everybody. That day of the year when we celebrate everything customer experience. And I can't think of a better way to do that than to have a group of CX leaders packed into our studio ready to celebrate. What do you say, everybody?
Woo! Yeah!
Let's talk about why CX is such a great profession on this special episode of the CX Leader Podcast.
The CX Leader Podcast with Steve Walker is produced by Walker, a business consulting firm that helps our clients unlock the potential of their customer experiences by placing the customer at the heart of all their business decisions. You can find out more at walkerinfo.com.
Hello, I'm Steve Walker, Chairman and CEO of Walker Information and also the host of the CX Leader Podcast. And thank you for listening. On the CX Leader Podcast, we explore the topics and themes that help leaders like you make a difference in your company and help your company achieve all the benefits of your customer experience. This helps your customers and prospects want to do more business with you and also has a positive impact on the world in which we live in. And that is exactly what we're here to do today and celebrate CX Day. CX Day is a worldwide celebration of the professionals and companies that make great customer experiences happen. I'm here with 5 CX leaders from 5 different companies in 5 different industries, and we're going to talk CX. What they like about it, why it's such a great profession, and where we see it headed. Before we dive into our discussion, I wanted to quickly introduce each one of my guests and have them just briefly give us a little background on themselves and the company. And I will start with Ms. Kim Howard from
Hello.
Wild Birds Unlimited. Thank you for being here, Kim.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me. I work for, of course, Wild Birds Unlimited. We are a specialty retail store. We've been in business for 37 years, founded by Jim Carpenter, and we have almost 350 stores across the United States and Canada.
And it is a store for bird enthusiasts.
It is.
So-
Yep. We support backyard bird feeding with all of our exclusive products and other nature-related products as well.
So it is a retail and it's also a franchise business,
It is a franchise business, correct.
Great.
Yep.
Well, thanks for being here.
Sure.
Next up is Valerie Jones from Calumet Specialty. Valerie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Steve. I love being here. Thanks for the opportunity.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and Calumet.
Yes, well, Calumet Specialty Products is a manufacturer of high-quality hydrocarbon products, which for most of us means oil. In many, many applications as a raw material component for consumer, industrial, commercial, automotive. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I know a little bit about your company. It's amazing the depth and breadth of the products that your stuff goes into. It's everything we use.
Everything we use. We can go through the studio and pick out probably 1,000 different things in here. Yes.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being here, Valerie. And next is Jeff Loudon from Indiana Farmers. Jeff.
Good morning, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Well, welcome to the show.
So I work at Indiana Farmers, and we're a property casualty company for Hoosiers by Hoosiers, historically. We've been around for about 140 years, and we're going into a growth mode, and we are expanding our footprint. So as far as customer experience goes, I've had the pleasure of dealing directly with customers for over 15 years. It's been a very rewarding space to be in. And so as a whole, customer experience is just something that's pretty well ingrained in my DNA. So,
And Indiana Farmers, has it historically been ag?
for the most part, I mean, a lot of our customers are personal lines, which
Right.
would be home and auto. But yeah, we do serve a lot of farmers, whether they be hog farmers or grain farmers or dairy farmers or so.
We know they have a lot to insure.
Indeed, especially in this state.
Yeah. Next is a longtime friend, first-time guest on the show, Karen Mangia from Salesforce.
Hi, Steve. Great to be here with this fantastic group of people. And yes, I am on our customer and market insights team at Salesforce. And at Salesforce, we think about how to help our customers be successful with their customers by giving them all the tools they need to really connect every aspect of a customer's experience. So for us, it's part of what we build and sell and also part of what we do on a day-to-day basis. And the fellow Indiana folks will probably also know us for that big tower downtown on Monument Circle.
Yeah, it's awesome in our city. And last and certainly not least is Sheila March from Ascension Healthcare. And Sheila's been on the show before. Sheila, welcome back.
Hi, Steve. Thanks for having me back. Yeah, I work for Ascension's Shared Services Center here in Indianapolis. And Ascension is the largest Catholic healthcare provider in the U.S. We serve almost 180,000 associates out of the Shared Services Center, where we manage all of their supply chain, human resources, and accounting and finance functions.
Yeah, great. So we got a great spectrum of businesses here. We got retail, we got insurance, we've got kind of more traditional, old line production company. We got healthcare, and we've got high tech. So pretty cool representation, and it just shows that CX is prevalent and pervasive in whatever industry you are, because in order to have a successful, sustainable business, you have to have good customer relationships, things that customers are willing to pay for and you can make money on. Well, let's just get this started and talk about, since it is CX Day, kind of how you got into this role. Sheila, you want to start us off?
Sure. So my background is actually in marketing and recruiting. I was a recruiter for several years. That's how I found my way to Ascension, and worked up through some organization where we handled a lot of client escalations. And then our CEO started reading more and more about this customer experience and what this whole industry was. And I worked my way into that role. Ascension's a little unique, or at least the Shared Services Center is unique. We were originally created in order to take a lot of that work, that back office work, out of hospitals. And so we grew so quickly doing that. We had a timeline that we had to stay on in order to create these cost savings so Ascension could continue to deliver health care to those that are less privileged and to live out the mission of Catholic healthcare. So that was really the focus in the first few years. And then we realized, we're servicing our customers are our own Ascension employees, as well as Ascension suppliers and some process partners. So we really wanted to say, now that we're here and our processes are up and running and we can do this, now's the time we need to focus on those that we are serving here, which are other Ascension associates.
Yeah, it's interesting. You're actually providing service to the folks that are providing the health care.
Yep.
And allowing them to practice medicine and not be weighed down with all the other things that they got to do.
It is. It's quite rewarding, too. We know that ultimately we have an impact on how someone's day can go, and they definitely have an impact on, the patients that they're serving every day in the hospitals, too.
Great. Kim, how about you? How'd you become a CX professional?
Well, previously, I have been in customer service and support.
Okay.
So it was kind of a natural flow to get into the CX world. I worked for a marketing automation software company for about 5 years, and my first customer at that company was Wild Birds Unlimited. So I was tasked with providing support on, at that time, Exact Target.
Which is now Salesforce Marketing Cloud.
It sure is, yep. So I did that for 5 years and provided support for our store owners in creating their emails and getting them out. And then I was approached from Bo Lowry at WBU, and she said, hey, we might have an opportunity for you at our company. And I was like, oh, I always loved the idea of working for a company who basically we sell joy. So people find so much joy in their backyard birds. And so I was thrilled to come on board. I still do training and support for the Salesforce Marketing Cloud on some of our other marketing platforms as well. And I also dabble in actually talking with the customers, the retail customers, as they call into the franchise support center. I answer those calls. So I do a little bit of that as well.
Yeah. Karen, how'd you become a CX professional?
I think about becoming a CX professional as sort of a dream deferred. When I was in college, I worked for a professor who did research, and my job for him was to follow up on surveys to radio and television news directors that had not been responded to, and offered to either send another survey or do the survey over the phone. And then I would do the analytics with him and would co-publish articles with him about the findings. And all of that made me think that I wanted to go work for Nielsen Ratings. And then I found out that was headquartered in Iowa, and that did not sound fun to me. So instead, I went into project management and sales leadership and really enjoyed that, really enjoyed being close to customers. And I was at a point of wanting to try something new. And I had an internal interview for a role I was really excited about, and the interviewer canceled on me the day of the interview. And through an accidental series of events and a mentor and a fellow graduate from the same university, I ended up being asked to take on really partner experience at the beginning. And that portfolio grew over time. And it took me several years into that role to realize I kind of had become the Nielsen ratings of my company. So it looked like it did in college. I just didn't have to live in Iowa, and the subject wasn't radio and television. But it was an accidental amalgamation of a lot of pieces, but mostly the common thread was being close to customers and being really curious about people's stories.
Great. Jeff, what's your story? How'd you get into this role?
Well, it's kind of one of those things where I've done a lot of things in a lot of different environments and a lot of different industries. And so I feel blessed to have those experiences. I had the opportunity to first sell stuff when I was in my early 20s. And then I really found my home in insurance in 2008. And that was something where I didn't have to go out and hunt for leads or for customers or things like that, and I could really focus more on the people themselves. And when we're talking insurance and we're talking claims, nobody likes claims. At best, they're a nuisance. At worst, it's a complete disruption of your life. Being able to connect with people at that level, be someone to lean on for customers or for people, and that's really rewarding. Is being able to help people in that. Our company, Indiana Farmers, set out a new vision. We started a Voice of Customer program. And with that, we started finding that, hey, we've got all of this feedback that's coming in. What are we going to do with it? And at that point, that's when I was tapped and came into this role in 2016. And it's been a learning experience. I see other rewards, like Sheila was mentioning, of being the thing that gets to the thing. Still being able to take all of the experiences that I've had and the thousands of interactions and the thousands of people that I've had the pleasure of working with or serving, and translating that into a larger scale.
Great.
So.
And Valerie,
Yes.
how have you gotten to this place in your career?
Okay. Well, when I started my career, I worked for a lighting manufacturer, and I ran their center, and it became the center of excellence, which was so much fun. So many components of the customer journey were involved in that, whether it was from order fulfillment through warranty, any type of dispute resolution, logistics. It was great. And then I was introduced from the CX side, actually, with Walker back then, with Walker Research at the time, and really just sparked my interest when I learned about how you can just get into the insights and the research and see the key drivers and how that can transform your company. That was all I needed. And I feel like in this profession, you really have to develop yourself. You have to kind of get outside of your company. You have to reach out to companies like Walker or Forrester Research or the Corporate Executive Board and all of those areas. And you really kind of have to become your own kind of CX practitioner. And you have to kind of develop and evolve yourself to help your company. So that was the spark, and then I did that for the lighting manufacturer, got into hospitality for a while, a little bit of a SaaS area, and now I'm with Calumet, and it's just an exciting field.
One of the things that I think is interesting about this business is not too many people really set out to become the CX expert. It kind of happened to them. But I think some of the common elements are that there's this curiosity about the customer, this desire to want to help the customer get what they're trying to get, and also this motivation that this is the way that businesses can become successful. It's interesting, you came from sort of customer support, you came from marketing, you came from sales, you came from more of a technical background, and yet you all sort of gravitated to this field and this field. And particularly, Valerie, your comments about the professional development, that's exactly why we're doing the CX Leader podcast, and so grateful that you guys are sharing your stories, because I know our listeners really enjoy hearing from practitioners. All right, well, let's just mix it up a little bit. Let me go right back to you, Valerie, and what is it you like about this job, this profession?
It changes all the time. So if you like an exciting, dynamic type of environment where change is really kind of the forefront, I think you would love this profession. The area that I think is truly evolving and right now in the next few years is the employee experience side. I really see that, a lot of companies, they're there on the customer experience, they're learning, they're growing, they're at different levels of maturity, and now they're taking a look and saying, well, wait a minute, I've invested in all of this for my customer experience strategy and whatever, falls into that. But what have I done on the employee experience side? How have I invested in my employees and developed them and made sure they had the right tools? And are they a part of the CX design? So that's the exciting part to me for the next several years.
Yeah, you make a great point, because really the whole purpose of CX is to keep driving change in your organization that's positive. And that's a neat insight. Jeff, what is it about this field that you like? You've been at it a couple of years.
Well, I think that in a lot of industries, the frontier is visible. Customer experience doesn't really have an edge. And then when you think you see it, it moves.
Yeah.
So to Valerie's point, the consistent and the regular change is, I think, a ripe opportunity for things that are catalysts for innovation, or being able to design experiences in completely new, unthought of ways, especially looking at things from the perspective of the customer. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones that are going to either advocate for you or they're not. And they control the purse strings. So to my point, if companies actually looked at themselves from the customer's perspective, then they would see things in completely new ways and derive new insights, being able to not necessarily reinvent the wheel, but just completely create a whole new wheel.
I love the concept of no frontier. I think, one of the things that we've said at our company is that you're never really done being customer focused, right? Because you can't control what the competition's doing. You can't control the innovation. All you can really do is just control what you can do. And so it is very dynamic and ever changing.
Hi, I'm Chris Higgins, producer of the CX Leader podcast. I want to take a moment to thank you for listening to the CX Leader podcast. We really enjoy being a source of information and inspiration for customer experience professionals. And we know you have some stories to share. With Halloween just around the corner, we'd like to have a little fun and share some CX horror stories. If you've got a story to share that is truly scary within the customer experience realm, send them to us. You can record them with your phone or computer and post them to LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter with the hashtag CXHorrorStory. Or feel free to email them to Steve at steve.walker@walkerinformation.com. We can't wait to hear what scares you as a customer experience professional. Thanks again for listening.
Hey, we're celebrating CX Day with 5 CX professionals, and Karen Mangia is a CX leader at Salesforce. Karen, as opposed to what you like about it, what is it that fulfills you? What about this profession is it that just makes you passionate about what you do?
What makes me most passionate and excited about customer experience as a profession is it plays to people being at their best. Because everybody, I think, at their core wants to be helpful and wants to do the right thing for customers. And what I love about our profession is we get to do that. We get to turn people onto how to help customers from their point of view really be successful. And it brings people together in a totally different way. You're working toward a common cause. And in the end, on both sides, at Salesforce or in our team and also with the customer, people get to feel successful because you help people make progress. And it builds just a totally different kind of relationships with customers and with people inside of the company. It gives you that really common sense of purpose that people rally around, and you get to see that you left something better than you found it, whether that's solving a problem or coming up with a new idea. And I find that really, really rewarding. And I don't think, reflecting back on my sales career, you don't get to do that as often because your motivation is a little bit different.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things I've always liked about the business is it's pretty hard to argue with getting around something that's good for the customer. Now, I know you all deal with that and who gets to say what is the truth about the customer experience, but at the end of the day, it really is a unifying principle for an organization. Kim Howard is at Wild Birds Unlimited. Kim, what about this business do you find fulfilling?
I think the most fulfilling part is to know that I have kind of my hands in every department of our business, and I can help drive success in each of those areas. Of course, in being in the retail industry, the most important person, of course, is the customer, that retail customer. And Jim says that all of our customers are a gift. So when that customer walks through the door, that's a gift to that store owner. And he's absolutely right, because in retail, you have a gazillion different ways you can get what you need. And we've all had that experience of walking into a store where, you're not greeted, and then you're not helped, and then you get to the checkout, and sometimes you're not even talked to. You might as well be on your phone ordering what you need. So just making sure that we give that customer the best experience they can have. I like that end result. I also like, for our store owners, these are people who have come from corporate America who have a passion for the hobby of bird feeding, and they've decided to start a business to do that for people. Wow, that's huge. And so it's also rewarding, very rewarding, to see their success as well and know that I can be a part of that.
So, Kim, I got to ask you, do you love birds too?
I like birds.
I have two really bird freaks in my family.
You do.
Yeah, they're in your stores and they
All the
buy
time.
and
Yeah, absolutely. Now
they have books and they
Yes.
keep track of how many different birds they've seen.
Oh,
and,
yeah. I'll do a little plug for The Joy of Bird Feeding, which Jim wrote. It's an awesome book as well. I was not feeding the birds before I started working at WBU. I bought a feeder. I'm feeding the birds. I think when the food is gone and those birds are looking at you, that's part of the thing. They're coming for it, and then you go and buy more bird food to help them. So yeah, I do like birds.
I'm fascinated by the technology to try to keep the squirrels and chipmunks out
Absolutely.
of the bird
Yes,
feeders.
absolutely. There's a lot of research that goes into those baffles. And
Sheila March from Ascension. Let me change it a little bit. How have you seen CX impact your company?
How have I seen CX impact my company? I think it's changing the mindset of up from our leaders all the way down to those frontline associates that are taking calls every day. It really is, our CEO calls it a transformation, and we're on this 5-year journey of this mindset change. And it really is a change in mindset across the whole organization. And we're starting to see that, and it's so nice. The little wins, that's so fun. When I'm in a meeting and I'd hear a senior director say, well, how would that impact our customer? Or how are they going to feel about this? And then hey, this is working. So that's something that's really impacted, I think, how we've started to make decisions a little bit differently than maybe we have a few years ago. And just people are more aware of, how their actions impact our customers.
Yeah, I'll just throw it up into the team. Anybody else got a perspective on how CX has impacted your organization?
I can echo
Jeff?
what Sheila's saying. Yeah, when it becomes part of the lexicon and the vocabulary of things that get talked about in meetings, whether that's down on the frontline team level or whether it's all the way up at the executive level, having the words customer and then customer experience be included in the conversation, that's really where you start to see it. And it's the seeds that for the trees that can grow.
How about some bottom line impact or some ROI on the CX? Anybody got any anecdotes or stories about that? Karen?
So at Salesforce, one of the ways that we think about engaging our customers is to help us with product innovation. So thinking through what we bring to market, how we bring it to market, what we build next. And in visiting with our customers live and in some other ways that we gather feedback at scale globally, we identified a couple of gaps in our product roadmap, and it compelled the company actually to make some acquisitions and really announce some major new products. So it's been really fun to see our senior leaders who made those decisions after listening to customers be able to go back and say, we heard you, we know there's a gap. As a result, we made a really significant investment, and here's how we're planning to close the portfolio, and be able to really authentically share with them that the reason we knew about that and thought about how to solve for it more quickly than building it ourselves was because of their feedback. So that's been really powerful, and there have been a number of examples like that for us in the past year.
Great. We're celebrating CX Day with some CX leaders here in the studio. Valerie Jones is the CX leader at Calumet Specialty. Valerie, you've been in the business world for a while. You're fairly new at your current organization, but what are the trends or what do you think the future of CX is going to be just generally for the profession?
Steve, I think the future is really, and we've heard it kind of in this panel here today, is it becomes a natural part of how you do business, of how you make decisions in your corporation. Not just looking at making decisions to say, how does this impact my customer, but how does this impact my employee? So I think that in the future, we're going to see not just, okay, you have to always have a seat for the customer at the table. That should be a given. Now, what about the seat of your employee? Because that employee experience with the customer experience is really going to bring it home for your organization from a profitability perspective, from a growth perspective, from a employee engagement perspective, which is critical in this labor market.
Yeah, actually, it's very competitive today. Anybody else got a perspective on where they think this profession's headed? Sheila?
Steve, I think I can take this one. I agree with Valerie. There's going to be a new focus on employee experience and employee engagement. I mean, we all know the saying that employee experience is really the foundation for a good customer experience. And I also think as customers' expectations continue to grow and become higher, and they're going to expect more from, how they live as consumers, but then in my case, also how they experience their own company and how their own company serves them. So there's going to be more of an emphasis on the employee experience as well. And then, we hear all this talk about automation and AI, and I think as more and more companies start adopting that, not forgetting about the humans that are there is going to become more and more important.
Yeah, you're right in the middle of that, actually, because your customers are really your fellow employees.
That's right, yeah.
What it calls to mind for me is integration, kind of taking both of those thoughts and putting them together. I think about the CEO of Ford talking about, we're not a car company, we're a technology company, and a car just happens to be how we're delivering that. And so I think what comes together for me out of what you were both saying as I think ahead to the future is, I think about companies not being, for example, a technology company, but being a customer experience or customer success company. And for us as practitioners, it means we're going to integrate, I think, more of what we do into the daily business practice, and then also more of the different ways that experiences in a company come together. Mm-hmm. So I feel like it's that integration piece, maybe the Ford that becomes the technology delivery vehicle, maybe we become the new business model delivery vehicle.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, that's a really cool, optimistic view on this CX day, so thank you. All right, my favorite thing to do, this is the lightning round. We'll go around once and just give your best tip, all right? This podcast is for CX leaders. You're all CX leaders, so just what's the one thing that you think as a CX leader that you would share with somebody that might help them be better in their profession? Kim, you're shaking your head. You got one?
Get buy-in. You need buy-in from everyone.
Get buy-in. That's a great one. Who's next?
I would say involve your employees early, the ones that are talking to the customers all the time.
Frontline employee involvement.
Get
Good
their
one.
feedback.
Spend time with customers to get context for all of those comments you get in phone calls and on surveys and in focus groups.
That's right. Make sure you're getting the real deal. Jeff?
Well, I actually have about 15, but if I were to pick one...
We'll have you back on the show for
right?
Jeff's tips.
Don't get me started. So I think Karen brought up a good point, and we're talking about the return on investment and involving customers in the design aspects of products that you're releasing and delivering and putting out there. But I think that one thing that gets lost on in the CX space is that the ROI... typical business ROI is going to be how many widgets did we sell, what was our return on that, what was the margin, so on and so forth. Customer experience is a different kind of calculus. So I think that being aware of, and anybody that's introducing or coming into this business needs to understand that the return on the investment is still a critical driver for any business, and that the calculus and the variables that go into those equations are different, and you have to get creative.
Great. Valerie, your tip.
I want to kind of go where Jeff was going with the ROI. Sometimes you have to do something because you know it's the right thing to do, and it might not have that exact a way to really calculate the ROI. And take a look at, I think companies need to take a look at, how are the CX leaders doing in the stock market or their ROI and really look at the CX leaders versus the CX laggers. And I think that will help get some of these CX initiatives in play.
Yeah, actually, that's a great way to tie it up is that, this really is about competitive advantage and about helping your company be successful by doing right by your customers and employees. Hey, I want to thank all my guests for joining us here. Sheila, Kim, Karen, Valerie, Jeff, thank you for being with us here on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thanks.
Happy CX Day to everybody out there in podcast land. If you want to talk about anything we discussed or about how Walker can help your business customer experience, you can contact me at steve.walker@walkerinformation.com or call me here in the U.S., 317-843-8890. Don't hesitate to reach out to me or any of the other fine people here at Walker. We'd love to talk to you more. Don't forget to subscribe to the CX Leader podcast. You can go to walkerinfo.com/podcasts and you'll find links to iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, and we actually have our own YouTube channel now, youtube.com/walkerinformation. Thank you for listening to the CX Leader podcast, which is a production of Walker. We're a business consulting firm that can help you make customer experience your biggest competitive advantage. Find out more at walkerinfo.com. Thanks again for tuning into this special episode, and I hope everybody has a great CX day, and we will look forward to seeing you back on the podcast next time.